Welcome to Dark and Mysterious World, where I tell the story behind haunted locations and the ghosts that dwell there. Today, my friends are going to learn about a small island in Italy that's flooded with the dearly departed. This is Poveglia. It is an abandoned island in the Venetian lagoon of northern Italy, between Venice and Lido.
Okay.
It
Don't
is
know where that is, but cool.
Well, you know where Venice is?
No.
Is that Italy?
Yes,
Yes.
northern Italy.
Okay.
In northern Italy, there's they call it a lagoon, the Venetian lagoon. They just have a bunch of islands there.
Okay.
This is one of them. It is abandoned. For good reason. Apparently people did live there at some point, but they were driven out by war, because they always are.
That seems like unclaimed land where we can just, build shit and live.
Okay, but what's on the island? Because if everybody left off the island, it's for a fucking reason.
Well, it wasn't
They were
until,
just being weak.
I would say 1776, the Venetian government kind of took control, was at the Public Health Office, because they wanted to make checkpoints there for ships that were coming in and out of the lagoon with supplies and people. And it was made bad. It was a bad thing because there were breakouts of plagues on the incoming ships in 1793. So the whole island became what was supposed to be a temporary quarantine station for all manner of deadly infectious diseases from every nearby island.
Holy Jesus.
So basically, you became official in 1805 because of Napoleon Bonaparte, who also decided to store weapons there. So not only is every sick person on every island being sent there to die, but Napoleon stored his weapons there, so his enemies went to the island to try to take the weapons.
I don't know, and in consequence also got sick.
Got sick or died in the abrupt battle that happened between the soldiers.
Dios mío.
Yeah. It wasn't great. The only thing that happened then was Napoleon. This is another nice picture. Here's the jerk.
God,
A
he's
nice
ugly.
picture of a war. They make war look so nice.
And he looks like he's little.
Right?
He was actually an average height. It's just his guards were like monsters. They were like Raphael size.
Imagínate tú.
Anyone looks short next to
For
that.
reference, Rafael is 6'4".
He's
Rafael
huge.
is average sized.
Is that what we're calling that?
Yes.
I thought average male size was like 5'11".
He is
That's
a
short.
normal sized man. Alright?
That's what most men should be.
6'6".
All right.
Is
I'm sorry if that offends anybody,
in my opinion, that is average.
Anyway,
but it ain't, sis. It ain't.
the one thing he did that everyone noticed was there was an old church and a bell tower that he converted into a lighthouse, which people think was more done to cover up him storing his weapons, and it failed spectacularly. But it's an important change to mention. Let's see. The buildings were later converted into a mental asylum in 1922 after they stopped using it for plague things.
I don't know, and I'm sure whoever arrived on the island ended up going insane. So obviously that was the obvious next
Yes.
step.
It was officially closed in 1968, so not that long ago. It's suspected that 160,000 people died of the plague and other illnesses on Poveglia between 1793 and 1814.
No, ma?
In that short of a time, on just that island, because there were other plague islands in the Venetian lagoon, and they all also had that rough amount of people die. They just can't be sure because no one's actually been able to go there to investigate it.
No,
So obviously there were a lot of plague doctors, plague pits. Obviously the plague doctors, plague pits, burned bodies. They say when people looked in the plague pits, they found ones
Plague
Where-
pits. What the fuck is that?
where you dig a pit, you throw some dead plague bodies in it, and then you either cover it up or you burn them.
Sounds
And then you
very
keep making another one.
environmental.
Yeah, they were really environmentally conscious in the
Yeah.
1700s.
I can't
It sounds like making the problem worse because then all that fucking fumes were gonna go into and spread
it
more.
sticks there and it sticks there.
Basically. People believe most of the soil is actually the ashes of the dead.
Oh
So
god.
it's great, isn't it?
No, can't you imagine with those and from all of that sickness that seeps into the soil?
That's what I'm saying.
Winter comes around, it kind of freezes over. Everybody's doing good, everybody's better, and then come summer and all of that, it just comes right back out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It just sounds disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Oh, God.
Actually, they would actually reopen pits. The plague pits.
To do what?
To put more bodies in.
Jesus.
And when faced with the bloody-mouthed corpses of decomposing bodies,
Ugh.
the diggers believed them to be vampires feasting on the dead and shoved stones in their mouth to starve them.
Listen, they would just creep the fuck out because who wouldn't be
Yeah,
after
man.
seeing
I mean, that's basically what happened with every vampire, that they believed that, like, when you're decomposing initially, your body loses all liquid, so your skin contracts, and it makes it look like your hair grew. They looked at that when they
And thought.
thought that they were alive and they were vampires, so that's why they started staking their bodies.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's just the ignorance of the people of the time. Just like how supposedly whenever they would catch a witch or somebody who they assumed to be a vampire or something, if they laid them to rest, they would put like some kind of like knife thing over their neck and bind them so that just in case they decided they were gonna pop out of their graves,
Yeah,
you
they
know,
couldn't.
their heads would get chopped off in the process.
Hey, I would do the same shit if I didn't know any better.
Unfortunately, the plague victims were not the only victims of the island. Because remember, the mental asylum was there.
Oh my god.
The mental patients themselves actually claimed to see the apparitions of plague victims everywhere and be kept up at night by their screams. Though, of course, the doctors and nurses ignored them.
I don't know. I feel like I would believe that. I would believe that.
I feel that they should.
Yeah.
But they had a horrible doctor who decided to experiment on them because he thought the perfect solution for insanity was lobotomies.
I mean,
Do you know what a lobotomy is?
Yes.
of course, sticking a metal rod between the soft part of
That's a
your eye.
lobotomy.
Pobrecito.
I forgot which region they would attack. Was it the Magdala?
I think so.
Mm.
I don't have that specifically.
They
in
basically
here.
destroyed human emotion.
Yeah.
Every time they did a
Yeah, it
lambada.
was
I
great.
think the little thing in the middle of the brain is the Oh my God, what is that? I think it starts with an A. Oh my God,
Is that not the amygdala?
amygdala. Thank you very much.
I thought she just said that. not
Did
the
you
one.
just say that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Jeez. Literally, they killed human emotion doing that shit, and they were just like vegetables.
Basically. Apparently, this doctor not only used a chisel and hammer, which was traditional in the 1920s, he also used multiple other tools, like handsaws, to perform the procedure on multiple patients, either killing them outright or horribly mutilating them.
Mm-hmm. Sounds legit.
The converted bell tower, which became a lighthouse, was apparently where he took certain patients for even more explicit tortures that we don't have documentation on.
You know what I want to know? You know what? Why are you calling it torture? That was his medical training. All right, that's what he. No, Victoria. Why are you judging a man who he went to medical school and they taught him when you crazy as hell, you give a lobotomy? That's not his fault.
Mabel?
Take the crazy away.
Are you
Which
telling
He
me...
technically did. If
Yeah.
you think about it, the
He took the crazy away.
lobotomies, they did what they did.
I mean, you end up with a quadriplegic, but bueno.
Yeah, because the medical school in the 1920s was just fantastic. Let's trust that knowledge.
Listen.
They basically said, if you sat in this class for long enough, you have your medical degree. If you stayed here for like a year, we're fine.
That's
not what we do anymore.
That was the medical field of their time.
Maybe we
you
should.
know?
Maybe we should, because you know what? Them student loans. Man.
And just a few years out before that, you know, leeching people was a common thing. And if you're bleeding a specific kind, huh?
Lynching.
No, it's leeching. Like they would actually attach a
leeching, the
leech to
leech.
you, yeah.
Or bleeding you, like or what was there? The 4 different kinds of bile. Like if you had red, black, white, or yellow bile.
Yeah.
It dictated like how healthy you were.
Yeah, it's great.
If you have black bile, you're dying. If you have black bile, that's it. Like that's cancer.
It's
or
over.
It's end game for you.
But anyway, the doctor fell from the lighthouse, claiming the patients had driven him insane. While a nurse did witness him falling off the tower, it's unknown if he jumped or someone pushed him, or even if the patients driving him insane were alive or dead.
It was those ghost patients who were like, "You lobotomized my ass. Now we push you on the building."
Yeah, but
Basically.
shouldn't they be lobotomized ghosts?
I don't think that's how that works.
I guess the question then becomes, if you lobotomize the brain, do you lobotomize the soul?
I mean, you know?
Because the brain is so complicated, we can't say that if somebody's in a vegetative state, if they're aware of themselves or not. Like, you can't even tell if
For all you know, they're probably aware and they're just fucking vegetables. They're just vegetables.
I'd be bored.
It is possible.
I'd be so bored if I was a vegetable and I was aware.
I don't think that's the case. Like, I feel like I am somewhat spiritual, or I choose to believe that I am. So I feel like if you are in a vegetative state and our technology shows that you have zero brain activity, that's it. But if your soul is still in your body can't register any outside information. So essentially, your soul is just trapped in your body, which is so much worse.
It is worse, to be fair. that is much, much worse.
That's much, much worse, because at least if you're trapped inside your body and can still somewhat be coherent of what's going on the outside, then,
there's just a zombie.
There's always a chance.
You're not trapped in your own mind out of boredom going insane.
Like with what happens with coma patients sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Coma patients are in a coma, but they're not completely brain dead. They still have some activity in their brain, and they can react to certain, outside stimulus.
Right.
But they just can't respond. You also can't measure whether or not they understand what you're trying to tell them. And yet we still have documented proof of people being in a coma or completely out of it under anesthesia who are like, I was completely aware of everything that was going on.
That does happen, though.
You know what could also happen if you have like an out-of-body experience?
Oh, yeah.
That could happen too.
That is true.
If you have a lobotomy and your soul just happened to, escape before they hit the nail to the hammer, the hammer to the nail.
True.
Now we're getting into the creepy bits. To this day, fishermen avoid even sailing near the shore, claiming to hear screams and moans, or even the bell ringing, despite it having been removed roughly 200 years before. They claim when the sky is clear, you can see all the bones that fill the water around Poveglia, and if a single one is caught in their nets, the fishermen will throw the whole catch back to avoid any repercussions.
Oof.
Like, basically, if you look through the water, they're like, it is a sea of bones down there. We don't want any of it.
Jesus.
What's more ominous are the large pair of eyes people say they have seen beneath the water, and the faces peering out of the abandoned asylum windows.
Oh, no, there's a phobia right there developing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what would scare me about, like, a giant squid. Like, if I'm just looking in the water on a boat and a giant eye just swims by, it's like, well, I'm gonna go back to land and never come back here. Not doing that again.
I mean, I don't know. If it's like a fish creature, I'd be like, that's more expecting. But if I see two pair of eyes that look somewhat humanoid, just looking back at me from under the deep depths of the ocean, I'm having 3 different kinds of fish shivers.
True.
I mean, assuming you didn't take anything before, so you know.
Yeah, please don't take drugs before you go to the ocean. Let's just keep safe here.
Yeah.
One spirit people see is Little Maria, a child that roams the beaches with heartbreaking cries, who is suspected of having died of the plague. So she literally just wanders the beach, crying and scaring the shit out of fishermen.
Well, she just stopped crying so much. You know how many kids would love to just hit it up at the beach?
Yeah. Jeez, what a cry.
Oh yeah, you want to go to an island because of the plague.
Okay,
she must
but
miss
like
her
she's
parents.
at the beach.
She could be missing her parents.
She's like, I would have more fun at the beach with my mom.
She can make a sandcastle. She was up being a baby.
Another spirit is Pietro, a double-leg amputee who is known to race up and down the hallways in his wheelchair.
I was about to say race how?
Rude.
No legs.
And those that enter claim to hear him still doing so. Federico is another cheerful ghost.
That guy ain't got no legs, and he's still enjoying his afterlife, running up and down in his wheelchair.
I don't know why he was in a mental asylum if he was just a double amputee. Like, what other problem did he have besides not having legs?
Oh, I don't know. I guess if you're deformed in esa manera in that time, you're just
thrown into the mental asylum.
You're insane.
It's in the mental asylum island.
Apparently, you can't be a normal person if you don't got legs. I don't know what to tell you. I cannot speak for the people of that time.
Federico is another cheerful ghost, one who seemed to smile and laugh during all hours, in contrast to the unidentified young woman with a terrifying expression that people suspect still fears the mad doctor, who people say is still performing experiments even in death.
Jesus. That would suck. Okay, that would suck if you had a whole group of ghost patients come after you only to kill you because of how bad you treated them, and then you die and you stay there in the afterlife. That's like karma.
I know. Apparently, those that go to Poveglia currently are riders and adventure seekers, and all agree to feeling watched and followed across the overgrown island. Some even saying they get a sense of great dread and sorrow, as if channeling the feelings of the dead. And going into the asylum is worse. The feeling is oppressive, the chance of being shoved or scratched is almost a guarantee, and every person who has ever visited left a believer. It's like...
I'm good. See, I get terrified just going through, like, an under tunnel. Like, the Port of Miami tunnel, and I'm already freaking out.
Like, this whole place has basically been abandoned because they can't even sell it anymore. It will not be sold. Like, every time somebody's like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll buy it, something happens.
Or they just go through the islands, you know what? This bitch is creepy, this bitch has history.
No, it's not even that.
Burn everything.
Yeah, that's just...
Burn all of it.
But that's basically what's happened, is that people go there and they just look at the...
bodies everywhere. I'm good. I ain't gotta mess with this fucking island.
No, and I'm sure there are people, crazy ass people, who go there and just, like, want to spend the night, just camp out, because why not?
No, they want...
But they're all white people.
Yeah. I think Ghost Adventures had an episode where they went to Poveglia, and I was like, why did you do this? Why would you go there and stay the night? And then they did, and then every one of them ran off the damn island.
I mean,
at the end of the episode.
Any of that was real.
I'm good. We're Hispanic.
But
we don't believe in that.
But there's a bunch of people, obviously, that have gone there just to be like, I went to Poveglia. It's creepy as hell.
I respect the supernatural. Alright, you don't mess with it. You leave it alone.
Especially with all of those bones that you're basically walking over. You don't know where the plague pits are.
Like you are, and I'm like, you know what? Nah.
Like, I have an actual, like...
I swear to
This is one of the pits that they had on a neighboring island. That they uncovered that while doing their investigation to see how many people actually died.
Jeez.
Like, that's just what it looks like. And I'm saying, they're like, yeah, so if you're walking over Poveglia, they haven't investigated anything. They haven't researched any shit. So you could just be walking over somebody's unmarked grave and asking for them to haunt you for the rest of your life.
No, and God forsake that the island gets hit by a random super strong storm or hurricane and unearths a whole bunch of, nasty little...
All those skeletons and just flings them at Venice and all the other islands.
Well, it said that's how you have all the bones in the water.
Probably. It's true.
I'm good. No, thank you.
For better or worse, ghosts remind us of the times that came before and the hard truths of our own history. Poveglia stands as an eerie grave marker for one of the most devastating diseases to ravage Europe, and a reminder of the abuses inflicted on the vulnerable that we as a society often choose to ignore. Those who fail to learn their history are doomed to repeat it. Thank you for listening, and hope you come back to hear more about our dark and mysterious world.